Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. As you guys can tell from the shirt, which I am wearing, in the title, which I will be giving to this video, this is a continuation of the series I just recently started, my reflections on the end of NaNoWriMo. Basically, my very mixed emotions about everything, my history, experience, happy memories with doing NaNo over the years, like how it came to an end, why it didn't have to end, like what I'm going to take from it going forward, that sort of thing. And this is going to be based off a blog post I just published on the 16th of June saying, talking about how it all unraveled. Now, depending upon the time I have when I finish basing a video off of that blog post, I may continue on to combine it with the blog post I will be publishing on the 23rd of June talking about how it didn't have to end this way, because obviously they're thematically related. So let's just start getting down with it. Though the horrific child grooming scandal and the nanoboard's enthusiastic endorsement of AI in creative writing were the biggest nails in the coffin, and I'll be talking a little about them in some more detail later on in this video or future videos, it seems in hindsight as though the beginning of the end came with the unveiling of the new website in 2019. Nothing was ever really the same after that. I mean, it's like dollars to donuts, like night and day. The inferior, crappy new website. It's just so many reasons. It was so much worse than what it had replaced. Like the original might have been like primitive by internet standards, but it was like inviting, emotionally warm. I mentioned a bunch of this in the previous video. Just like it was a totally not an upgrade at all. I can believe there were serious tech issues behind the scenes with the old website. I mean, we never really know what's going on in any organization or website or something. We just have to take their word for it. And sometimes tech issues are a lot worse than we might assume. But surely the organization still had more than enough funds at that point to afford a better update. The new site they foisted on us right as NaNo 2019 began was widely criticized for many reasons, not least of which being it felt like it were still in beta mode with all the bugginess that entailed. And originally they had been planning to unveil the new website for NaNo 2018, but they guess there was an issue with funding or something else going on behind the scenes. Who knows with them, given what everything we've found out since. But so they obviously had to unveil it in 2019. But if I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but if they had all these financial problems and other issues behind the scenes for that long before they finally or were forced into transparency, and honestly, why did they spend the money taking care of that instead of the garbage new website nobody liked and nobody really wanted except a bunch of brown nosers? Oh, you can do no wrong. Oh, you're being so toxic. Oh, Kilby is right. Oh, you're just not being appreciative. Oh, we all know those kinds of brown nosing trolls. They got so many complaints but refused to listen. We were getting that site exactly as it looked and functioned, whether we liked it or not. Screw our feelings or input. It's all about what the board says we should like. They couldn't even temporarily bring back the old site that worked quite well on our end while they worked out the bugs on the update, or at least made the beta version available to a select group. I mean, seriously, absolutely gobsmackingly, jaw-droppingly poor timing of a release for the new site. The old site always seemed to have problems in the first few days of NaNo due to how many people were using it at once. I mean, the challenge got bigger and bigger and bigger every year. Apparently, that's why they decided to make it officially a nonprofit back in 2006. But even if there's lots of people using your website, it shouldn't constantly be lagging or crashing or something just for that reason. Find a solution, a workaround. Don't just keep letting it happen year after year and then decide to solve the problem with an update that didn't even work. But at least we could easily navigate it. It was familiar. Who rolls out a major update so soon before showtime? Seriously? It's like expecting someone who just got a learner's permit to immediately drive on a freeway at rush hour, or starting a new job with zero training or even a tour of the building. I mean, seriously, use your brains. The new message boards used infinite scroll. I hate that so freaking much. Why does anyone think that's a good idea or looks good, it's horrible to use. And so infinite scroll is extremely annoying and makes it impossible to easily, quickly find one's place at the top of the page or go back a certain number of posts. I mean, like, why would anyone think that is good? It wastes a lot of time and motion. Like, oh, I have to scroll back, scroll back, scroll back, instead of in the old days, oh, okay, there's 10, 20 posts on a page. I can easily find my way back, but nope, oh, I can't find it. I'm scrolling and scrolling. Oh, who screw it. I'm just going to do something else. This isn't worth the bother. We had to manually uncheck, or maybe it was check. I don't really remember at this point. It's not important. So we had to do that to a box to access all of the message boards every time. But besides, we could see that, like, I believe it was like tech support and update one. But other than that, like, we couldn't automatically de facto have access to, like, read and post and such on all of the other message boards, which that's kind of the whole point of that part of the NaNo site. And we had to search for our regions rather than having it pinned like it used to be. So, like, we knew where we were, but oops, gotta, like, check through all of the regions all over the world and then narrow it down to our particular area, like the country or the state or the province or whatever, and then find it by city, or like nothing about this was functional. It was just so horrible, like a complete failure of a website. Some of our camp projects also didn't migrate over until we figured out how to manually do it ourselves. Again, yet another failure, but they didn't listen to us. Earth to web developers, the entire world doesn't use the internet on mobile devices. No. Wow, what a huge shock. Some of us are dinosaurs and we actually use these old-fashioned things called computers. A desktop interface should look and function much differently. We got used to the new website because we had no choice. I mean, like, seriously, it was that or not do NaNo. But an even worse blow was dealt in 2020 when the NaNo brass canceled all in-person events because of COVID. So many things about the public response to COVID were so severely mishandled. Not to get too political, but, like, unless you're, like, super, like, ideologically captured, you, like, realize it was like a horribly botched thing all around. Not only that, they encouraged people to squeal if they found out about privately arranged writing. It's like, what does that sound like to you? I'm not going to say it, but you can, like, imagine. That's very disturbing that anyone's mind would go there. You think, oh, that's totally cool. If you see someone going against a groupthink or something we've decided is correct, like, just squeal on them, get them in trouble. This is bad. Only one way of thinking is correct. And if you don't think like that, off to the re-education camp. I mean, that's really not far of a stretch from that kind of toxic mindset. They kept everything canceled in 2021. Which increased the feeling of isolation from the writing community for so many of us. Lockdown triggered my cyclical depression, wrought havoc on my mental health, and sent my usual daily writing output careening towards the graveyard. It was, like, seriously horrible. So many people just, they still don't realize or don't want to be honest about, like, lockdown. It was not good for a lot of people. It really, like, damaged us in ways we are still, like, trying to recover from. Finally, even the super woke Berkeley brass realized the entire world couldn't stay locked down permanently. I mean, I'm shocked they came to that realization. And they permitted in-person events in 2022 after all the damage they had done with destroying connections to local writing communities. I'm surprised they didn't make us show up to write-ins wearing masks and sitting 6 feet apart. I mean, if they had done that, I wouldn't have come. Every time I had to wear a mask, I have a very sensitive stomach. I edited a paragraph out of this blog post for the sake of, word count, keeping it relatively tight. It felt like I was carsick every time, like I was, like, nauseous, like struggling to breathe. It was just not good for my physical health either. And they just wanted all this crap to continue permanently. Like, I have a meme in this post I've used several other times. If the lockdown worked the first time, why are we having another? If the lockdown didn't work the first time, why are we having another? Around the same time they canceled all in-person events, they started sending political emails, like telling people where to donate money or what cause to support because, we're going to assume everyone is a faux-aggressive, like, neoliberal wokester with, like, Bay Area type of current year values. Like, it's not a worldwide writing challenge. There couldn't possibly be anyone participating who's conservative or middle of the road or like an old school lefty like I am, who's not like full on woke or anything like in between besides that extreme political stance they took. And they made a DEI page to virtue signal all of these divisive politics that have zero place in a writing challenge. It was basically a timeline, and it was be going from the most recent event at the top, and then it would go in, descending order of the dates towards when they started that like stupid page. Again, this is completely inappropriate. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, what the particular issue is, or even if I might personally agree with your point of view, like when they were asking people to donate money for like whatever cause it was for like abortion access. I'm personally pro-choice, but I can imagine a conservative Christian or conservative person of any religious bent or no religious bent, or just who doesn't like personally believe in abortion for like reasons unrelated to religion. How is that person going to think reading that? Or for example, maybe a cop or someone from a cop family is reading their, oh, let's defund the police. In fact, let's make it even better. Let's have no police at all. Like, you're just assuming everyone agrees with your point of view and that's the only correct point of view to have. I can't believe, like, I have to explain this, and I'm not even conservative at all myself, except for, like, a handful of, like, views, but that's, like, off topic. That's mind-bogglingly inappropriate and presumptuous. They sacked MLs, municipal liaisons, for refusing to go along with all their new woke nonsense and had the chutzpah to goy-splain anti-Semitism, Jewish history and identity, and what life is really like in Israel to the 4 Israeli MLs. I think this was sometime in 2021. When challenged, they quadrupled down and announced this conversation ended in recommending the MLs listen to notoriously unrepresentative and actually extremely dangerous groups made up of non-Jews and self-hating Jews. I know I have a screenshot of something I took from Instagram here. As Jews, we've only had, 2,000 years of experience enduring the various manifestations of hate towards our people. I think we, of all people, know what anti-Semitism looks, smells, tastes, and feels like. It's pretty disgusting. Consider it an immense privilege that you can't sense it, don't understand it, and don't carry the weight that we do. Non-Jews thinking that they can define what is and isn't anti-Semitic is, by its very nature, anti-Semitic. Let oppressed people define their own suffering. Yeah, this is like a total hypocrisy. They would never take this attitude towards any other minority or oppressed group. And of course, they made all MLs undergo mandatory diversity training, because in the 2020s, we apparently no longer trust people to just, treat everyone equally, regardless of identity group. Like, we already assumed you guys weren't bigots. One ML was harassed about not having a fat inclusive space. Speaking as someone who was once within spitting distance of morbid obesity, I was close to 220 pounds and I'm a little bit under, I'm 5'2" in bare feet. You have to be pretty damn huge to not fit into a normal chair and probably have far more important priorities than going to write-ins at that point. And this is a screenshot I took from the Reddit NaNo group. And I'm going to be translating some of this, this person had a garbled sentence at one point. I'm going to translate it into what I think this person meant. And I'm going to be saying all right instead of the dumbass sorry not sorry term. I doubt the Dutch actually said aight. I vaguely recall a few years back, they badly effed over the Dutch chapter over some mandatory training that had absolutely no bearing on Dutch NaNo. I think it had something to do with diversity. But, this made no sense for the Dutch team to participate in, as I wouldn't actually run into the issues they wanted to address in the training. As I vaguely recall, they were all female, disabled, LGBTQA members, 5 question marks in a row. So NaNo replaced the entire Dutch team. It was 3 people on that team. It once had at lead NaNo time 10 or something at that point, without even trying to talk to them, the Dutch, first. They, NaNo, then demanded the Dutch team hand over everything the Dutch had set up by themselves. I think stuff like Discord, the Dutch-specific event lists, etc. So, the Dutch NaNos have more or less said, all right, F this absolute BS. We're doing our own thing. And, yeah, Most Dutch participants nowadays really only use the NaNo site to keep track of their stats and get goodies, and that's it. That was pretty much true for like all of us after they shuttered the forums in 2023. And then came the child grooming scandal that broke halfway through NaNo 2023, and the resulting closure of all message boards, coupled with revelations of the disturbing Yvonne the Icy treasure hunt game resembling a terrorist bombing attack. I just found out recently that was 2017. I thought that was a bit more recent. Partnerships with predatory vanity presses and not paying their taxes since 2022. That lattermost item was also like very recently. I found out like it was so much stuff going on behind the scenes nobody even suspected. All MLs were fired in April 2024. I believe it was like an April Fool's Day, fittingly enough, after refusing to sign a very shady contract no real lawyer would approve. And the board came out in support of generative AI, calling everyone against AI classist, ableist, and privileged. And I might do a future video based on that blog post I did on the topic. Interim director Kilby Blades, a pseudonym she uses on tax forms and other legal documents. I know her first name is Kimberly or Kim. I'm not going to out her last name, I've found out, because unlike Kilby, I'm not that kind of like revenge-minded person. And so anyway, Kilby threw NaNo into the toilet by her refusal to step down and let people from outside the org handle the huge mess. I mean, that should have been a no-brainer. NaNo could have been reformed with entirely new leaders, maybe even a year or two offline so they could work out all these serious issues and then come back much stronger. I mean, seriously, maybe they even could have left the website up for that time, but just said, okay, you guys, you can track words on this and get maybe, well, no goodies, but just like the satisfaction of hitting 50K, but there's not really going to be any community aspect to it because we're figuring out so much stuff that's important behind the scenes we need to address first, and then we'll come back with the website will be fully functional again. Lots of fun new bells and whistles, apologies, new stuff, all sorts of things like that. But nope, they just continued like driving it into the ground. And insanity, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, yet expecting different results. To the bitter end, Kilby blamed everyone and everything but herself for what happened. I mean, this crisis, tragedy even at some level, could have been prevented if only they had just done things differently. And because the time I'm seeing now is 17 minutes, so I'm going to end here and then continue the thematically related thing about how it didn't have to end like that, like this, in a future video. Thanks very much for watching. Please leave me a comment letting me know any memories you guys have of NaNo. Did you ever do NaNo? Did you decide not to do it for whatever reasons? Like, just all sorts of thoughts you have about this topic. I really do enjoy seeing comments. It lets me know people are actually liking my videos and watching all the way through, and they're connecting with my personality as a YouTuber and a presenter. So thanks again for watching. Bye.